Hi everybody, it's me, finally getting to actually record this video because I was gonna do it a few days ago, except then the camera was full, so it had to be emptied. Then it was emptied, then I was gonna do it, but it turns out I completely forgot to click on record, so I had to try it again. Then the battery was empty, so I had to recharge it, and then turns out it hadn't actually charged because the plug wasn't incorrect. And now I'm recording it with a full battery and empty storage, but we're nearly gonna eat, so I hope I'm gonna get this thing finished. Anyway, another review. You guys might remember the few of the videos I made a while ago with the Ranger's Apprentice problems. I'm still working actually on the Ranger's Apprentice things I like about it. I've got notes somewhere. But the thing is, those books have been recommended to me by a friend who is one of the few people who actually watches my videos. So that was awkward because he was watching, me with a video telling all the problems with books he had recommended. Now, a while ago, he recommended another book, which is a sign of great trust, I guess, because, how does he know I'm not gonna dislike that book as well? But anyway, he recommended to me the book Eragon, which is actually in a series, but I only read the first book, so I'm just only going to review that. Eragon was written by Christopher Paolini, a homeschooler like me, so that's pretty cool. He actually wrote it during his teen years, between the ages of 15 and 19. And it's a book that is about a boy, 15-year-old boy, Eragon, not to be confused with Aragorn, who finds a blue stone in the woods, and from then on he finds out a lot of different things, that there's a lot more to who he is and to his past and all that than he would have thought. And on this quest that he goes on, he is accompanied by Brom, the village storyteller. It has a lot of similarities to Lord of the Rings. Apparently, it has a lot of similarities to other fantasy series and books and things like that as well, but I haven't read those, so I wouldn't know. But I did see that there were, dragons, dwarves, elves who love the sea. We see, a wise old guy who accompanies them. Let me see what else. Oh yeah, orc-like creatures, stuff like that. But the magic itself, how the world works, was actually pretty original, to me at least. It wasn't a carbon copy of, the world of Lord of the Rings. So the way the magic and the old language worked were pretty original, and I like that. The violence is pretty much on the same level as Lord of the Rings, but it is a bit more gruesome. And I think this is because in the Lord of the Rings there are gruesome things as well, Like at one point they catapult the heads of prisoners over the wall, which is something they actually did do in the Middle Ages. But the thing is, J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings, doesn't really focus on blood or anything like that. He focuses on why it's so sad, because they were real people. So instead of saying, wow, these heads are really gross, man, he was like, this is really sad because these were friends, and just a few days ago they had been plowing their fields. Whereas Paolini, the author of Eragon, goes more with the blood and guts version of impressing the reader, which is a version I like less, not only because it's more gruesome and dark, but also because it tells less of why it's so sad when somebody dies, If I ever die, I'd be more happy if somebody wrote a novel about it. I'd be more happy if they were like, it's sad because she was a person, than it's sad because it was gross, So it can be a bit much sometimes. Eragon's first motivation, the one that sets him off on the quest, is revenge, which, is not a thing I am okay with at all. It was a big hurdle for me to overcome, if I was to like it. I'd appreciate it more if the book went with a Christian view, but of course the author isn't Christian, so... as Christians we should try to follow the example of Jesus, who forgave people even as they were nailing him to the cross. Which doesn't mean that it always works out when we try to do it, because we can't be perfect, but we should try to be like him. And, the whole motivation thing that gets him started on the quest to be like, I want to kill the guys who did something bad to me. It's understandable, but, I don't support it. Later his motivation changes from vengeance to justice, where the book says, let me just see. No longer it was just vengeance that drove him, it was his duty to assist those without strength. Which sounds nice, but I still feel as if the line between vengeance and justice is a bit thin in the book, you know? I get that in real life it can be that sometimes as well, but I would have appreciated a bit more distinction between the two. The book has some animistic tendencies, which is the urge to worship nature. For example, the sea is described as being emotion incarnate. But that's not really the biggest thing. The biggest thing is when Eragon and Brom, that village storyteller, they come into I think a town, yes, a city. And next to the city is this huge mountain, and everybody in the city is worshipping this mountain. And basically the way, if you're a Christian, the way the other people in the Bible worship Baal. So it's like not a nice thing at all. And at one point, Eragon goes into a cathedral that was built, I hope you can't hear that, into a cathedral that was built for this mountain. And, it's kind of creepy, because here they also make sacrifices, stuff like that, and it emanates a feeling of sadness and cruelty, the book says that. But then this happened, and I'll just read it. Out of respect, Eragon knelt before the altar and bowed his head. He did not pray, but paid homage to the cathedral itself. And they explain that he does this because the cathedral is old and has seen so much. Well, I mean, first of all, he's paying homage to a building, that's cool. Another thing, the reason this building has seen so much is because priests are sacrificing their body parts inside of the building. The building was literally built to be in honor of a mountain that people are worshipping in a very nasty way. So I don't get why you would do that. So I did not appreciate that at all. Something else Christians might object to is the presence of a herbalist, that who can read the future. In the book they say tea leaves, divining cards and crystal balls, stuff like that doesn't work, but apparently the thing where you throw knuckles, but in this case it's dragon knuckles, does work. And she reads Eragon's future. Apart from the whole thing that it isn't very Christian, I just felt it didn't add a lot to the plot, especially since Eragon was already the plot was already being driven by Eragon's dreams. He was having dreams in which he saw a girl that he was going to try and rescue. So the plot already was being driven by that, and the only thing it really did was give in-book spoilers. For example, one thing she says is there's going to be a death in your future, which made the actual death that happened a lot less sad, because I was expecting it. I wasn't expecting the character to get better, because they already said somebody was going to die, so what do you expect? So there's some other minor problems, like usage of bad words and Eragon getting drunk and having a hangover, stuff like that. Another thing is the main bad guy of this book is possessed by an evil spirit, which was creepy, and actually in the book they say if you open yourself up to spirits in that world, the only spirits that are going to possess you are the bad ones, which technically speaking could be a Christian message, because it's true in this world as well. If you go and fraternize with spirits, then you're only going to get the bad guys, because the good ones aren't allowed to, because we're talking about angels and demons then. But I just didn't really appreciate it all that much. Doe je de deur weer even dicht? Hou voor jou.
2 seconds later.
Ugh.
Sorry.
Ik ben iets aan het opnemen. Kunnen jullie even weg? Okay. One large theme in the book is that of finding identity. Okay. One big theme in the book is that of finding identity. Eragon has to leave his home behind and find out who he is. Paolini first describes Eragon's home and his village very lovingly, which makes it all the more sad and painful when he has to leave. And as somebody who often has had to leave places that that felt like home to me, I really resonated with a lot of Eragon's feelings. I feel that was described very well, his homesickness and bittersweet memories. Those were done very well. Another thing with identity in the book is that people are described as having a real name in the ancient language. Knowing this name gives you full control over this person, which is explained, but I'm not going to go into that right now. Another way to control others is to break into their mind, and both these ways, knowing another person's full name and using it, or breaking into their minds, are seen as a severe violation of a person's rights that are only to be done when it is absolutely necessary, so that's good. Another thing that I found interesting is that even though you can speak, they have like this, I think it's I don't know how to pronounce it, telepathic communication. They can do that between humans and between animals, but something that's interesting is that humans are still seen as having rational thoughts, whereas when you communicate with an animal, they have more instincts and feelings. So I thought that was interesting to see the difference between humans and animals. Eragon is opposed to harming defenseless people, which is good. At one point, he has another travel companion called, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna look that up. How do you pronounce this? Here. Pronunciation, very nice. They have a pronunciation guide that isn't as complicated as the one in Lord of the Rings. Murtagh. Oh, I was completely right. Okay. Murtagh. He has this, that's his travel companion. And at one point they're attacked by a bunch of slavers. So they're admittedly bad people, and at one point they've got them all, the leader is all defenseless, and that's the point Murtagh decides to chop his head off. And Eragon protests this because he's like, he was defenseless, why were you doing that? And I'm gonna just quote again here. The explanation is, no stranger's life is more important than my own. What empathy can I afford my enemies? You must be willing to protect yourself and what you cherish, no matter the cost. And then Eragon retorts that you can defend any action that way, and says it's still murder. And later, he is told, learn what you can about Murtagh from this, then forgive him. So, I really appreciated this because Murtagh does something bad because of the way he is grown up. And other books would see this as enough excuse for him to do it. You know, they're like, well, since he grew up that way, you can't blame him. But this book still is like, well, no, it's just plain wrong, and he should know that. So that's something I really appreciated. Sadly, something that happens, the main baddie does have a tragic backstory, so trying to explain why he became bad so that suddenly, instead of being a bad guy, he's a sympathetic character. On the other hand, you could say that the evil spirit that possesses him is really the main bad guy, but we never really get to know that guy, we just get to know the guy who is possessed. So, what I'm trying to say is, I was a bit disappointed that the main bad guy got a sympathetic story arc, because he was just a bad guy. I don't care how sad your backstory is. If you're killing people, and that's bad. Later, Eragon sees people preparing pitch, because there's going to be this big fight, and they're preparing pitch, boiling hot pitch, to throw over the Orgles when they come and attack them. And he shudders, thinking it's a terrible death, even for an Orgle. And later, his friend, his companion Murtagh, is fighting, and his face is described as being disfigured by a vicious snarl. And this is a good guy in a fight that is worth fighting for, but even then, he is described like that, which really shows that the author is against killing and prefers mercy. So that was something I really appreciated. However, at one point, Eragon does threaten somebody with what is basically torture if he doesn't tell him something he wants to know. Which, is a bit hypocritical, considering his morals. But on the whole, the book clearly speaks out against killing others or hurting others. Okay, something I did appreciate very much was how Eragon's sexual feelings were dealt with. And that sounds weird. At one point, he has rescued an elf called Arya, who has had a rough time of it, so he needs to heal her. So, to do this, he does need to take off certain items of clothing. She's lying on her stomach, so with her back up, so you don't actually see anything. But while he's healing her, he has to touch her back. And normally, this is a scene that is completely necessary, okay? So they didn't put that in just to make him have romantic feelings, because he had those enough already. But normally, books would either completely ignore any feelings the guy would have, because that's deemed as problematic, or they would make it very weird, and I would stop reading the book. But I don't like it when they ignore it, because, I'm a girl, so I don't know how boys feel, but I have a dad who is very honest with me about those kind of things, and brothers. So I kind of know it, that, if a boy needs to heal a girl's back by, using magic, there's gonna be some weirdness involved. And I really appreciated that, in this book, Eragon isn't immune to, seeing, oh, she has a nice body, I really hope nobody's hearing me. So Eragon does have feelings, but what impresses me most is his modesty, because anytime he has those, he's embarrassed by them, and he doesn't really want to be, getting so close to people. So whenever he does have, so I like that he does. It gave me a lot more respect for him, because he does have those feelings. He's not some kind of superhuman boy who suddenly is devoid of having any weird feelings, but he suppresses them, and he eventually tries to focus more on people's personalities. So Eragon gives me a lot of mixed feelings. On the one hand, there are a lot of occult and animistic stuff happening. On the other hand, there's some good messages about dealing with others, but then again, there's also the characters themselves don't always follow their own morals. Some of the violence might be a bit too much for some of the readers, depending on what kind of book you normally read. So I would say the book is okay to read, but it's very important to remember that through the character's actions, the author is trying to tell you something, and you should be looking out for that. Don't just read it. Don't think you can just doze off and be and accept everything. There's good things and there's bad things, and it's very important not to get lost. So that was the review. Again, good things and bad things. I am currently reading the second book, I think. It's on my reading list, so... yeah, it is on my reading list over here. Here. It's on my reading list, but it is very long. It's a very long book. So, I don't know when I'm ever gonna finish that, because I'm reading a lot of things at the moment. So, maybe there's never gonna be a review, or maybe there is. I don't know yet. I think that's about it for now. Wow, look, it's still loading. Long book. Look. Yeah. I'm like page 136 of 1,524 pages. Yeah, so that's gonna take me a while. Anyway, that was it for now. I'll probably be recording a lot more videos while I'm here, because as you can see, we're in Tana now, which is the capital. So, which I'll be uploading over the span. I have got some very nice plans, but you'll see them when they come out. That was it. See you in the next video.